Let's see if I can do this on my glasses. Okay, for the longest time, I've done YouTube videos about comic books and reviewed them, but my real passion is writing. If you stayed until the end of one of my videos, you've heard me talk about my website, somethingcentral.com, and how I post chapters of web series on there. I also want to professionally publish my own books relatively soon, within a year or so. Sure, I've been an amateur, if you could even say that, by publishing books on Amazon, but that was stupid. I shouldn't have done that. I didn't get them professionally edited or peer-reviewed or anything else that's super important to the writing process. But you live and learn. One of the first things I've learned is that you need an editor, but before that you need money, and before that you should probably have an audience because, well, then what's the point? Along with other videos about writing, I'm still going to review new comic book issues as they come out, but my longer form videos are going to be about writing from now on. There might be some exceptions here or there, but for the most part, long-term videos about writing. And today's topic is about breaking your characters, or making them suffer. Now, one of my favorite things to do as a writer is to kind of crack open a character like an egg, figuratively speaking. Sometimes literally. Okay, a lot of the times literally, but we're strictly talking figuratively today. Mostly. When I say break a character, I mean to push them to their emotional and mental limits, hit them where it hurts, and bring them to the point where it's questionable as to whether or not they might recover. Again, all of these are vague descriptions because this events of breaking your characters can take about just any form. There's multiple different ways to do it. And a character who is irrevocably changed or broken might still be able to physically go on. They're just changed for the rest of the story. This point in the story can technically come at any time, but it's usually during the rising action in the lead up to the climax. I guess like there are some exceptions. There's exceptions to every rule, I guess. It's not even like a rule. It's just like a middling guideline that I've noticed. There's probably like 100 different reasons or examples that prove me wrong, but who cares? We're not talking about me being wrong. Where the hell am I? I totally lost the script. I've seen some stories show their characters fall apart in the exciting incident of their story towards the beginning, but it's less common in books I read. Specifically, I read like fiction. Of course, I read fiction. Usually I read fantasy or sci-fi, and those are the ones I write in. But my experience as a hobby writer, I found it really difficult to try and really break a character at the beginning of the story because you don't know who they are. If it's a sequel, that's really not technically the beginning of the story. You've already had the several chapters from a book previously, even if it's just a novella. So I wouldn't necessarily count that as being the beginning of a story. That's like the beginning of an entry of a story. But you're probably asking yourself, why do you gotta break your characters? You don't always have to. Sometimes there are characters who you don't break because the point of the story is to show not how they can change, but how the world around them changes. Like, Superman. But not every character in every story works like that. Sometimes you gotta do it because what breaking a character does is show the character, and ergo the audience, what the character is truly made of. Any person can stand up to the same threat they face 100 times. It's not incredibly impressive to walk into the climax at 100%. Sometimes a character has to threaten to fall apart and question their resolve to find out what kind of person they truly are. And there are right ways to do that, and there are bad ways. It's the difference between tropes and cliches, if you will. Today, I want to talk about my favorite ways to break a character, and maybe I'll do a video about my least favorite. I make no promises. I don't do well with making videos I said I would make in prior videos. Yeah. First one, kill your other characters. You know what really sucks? Losing someone you care about. It's such a terrible, mind-numbing, heartbreaking thing that I absolutely love to put my characters through. You can see the strongest, toughest, meanest guys in the group just absolutely fall apart when the group dog dies. Or the party's weakest and sweetest member is killed by the villain. Or maybe the mentor figure just finally succumbs to disease and being old, and that just sucks for them. And these moments, when characters are grieving loved ones, you learn a lot about them by how they mourn. Do they cry in the face of loss, or do they start contemplating the end? Does the headstrong Lancer, who's been nothing but confident and full of aggressive gusto, suddenly start to feel fear at the death of another party member? Or maybe they don't break down at all. Maybe they shove their feelings deep, deep, deep down, killing a part of themselves to move on. The story then reveals how deeply broken and repressed a character is in this way. Or maybe it just reassures you of what you already suspected. I can't say the word. The story then reveals how deeply broken and repressed a character is this way. Or maybe it just reassures you of what you already suspected. A character reveals a true self when confronted with a surplus of emotion. And I eat that shit up. There are a lot of bad ways to kill off your characters, and sometimes you don't need to quote-unquote actually kill them. But when done right, a good character's death can really push the story forward. Just don't kill the protagonist's girlfriend. That's just uninspired when his best friend is right there. Number 2, have them face rejection. Everyone has to handle rejection. It's demoralizing, debilitating, and just so defeating. Whether it's a job, a social group, a parent, or even that girl who is definitely out of your league. Rejection fucking sucks. Unless it's happening to your main character. Then it's great. Rejection is one of those things that happens and immediately derives a very harsh response from the character and the audience. It just gets the blood pumping, and narratively justifies characters making snap decisions they'll regret. When they're rejected, how badly do they take it? Do they reveal that they're not actually that great a person? Do they have humility and show that maybe whoever rejected them will regret it because they're so great? Or do they nod their head, accept it, and just walk away because they're used to it? How a character responds to rejection can tell you a lot about them. It rarely completely breaks a character wide open, so to speak, unless they're a maniacal, megalomaniac villain. But it's a great way of showing who hides beneath the facade. Number 3, make them terrified. What you're scared of tells others a lot about you. And it's doubly true for fictional characters. Like, you literally read fictional characters like a book. Like, they're not, alright, yeah, you get it. What a character fears gives you insight into their state of mind and their backstory. And sometimes it just builds suspense. There are so many different ways to make a chill run down your character's spine. Do they start to freak out at the sight of clowns? Are they questioning death? Maybe the villain has really made them reevaluate their life choices and their whole quest. Maybe their mom calls them by their full name and they have a full-on panic attack. I understand that feeling. I'm sure many of you do, unless you're Batman. All of these things, whether mundane or world-ending, tells you something key to their character. For example, if your badass protagonist only cowers in the face of clowns, that tells you they've probably never had real problems. And they're not worried about the plot, which can sometimes lead to other issues in the plot. Or that there's an actual conflict in your plot and then it's intentional, then kudos for you, I guess. It could also reveal a deep psychological flaw where the main character isn't able to sense danger and is constantly at risk of getting themselves and their friends hurt. Or it's a funny gag. Sometimes that's all it is. When it comes to a character's greatest fear coming to terrify them, there's always something to learn about their character. No greatest fear is meaningless. Sometimes you just have to think about it more than others. Now go make your character suffer. I hope you enjoyed my foray into making videos about writing. This is like a quick thing just to kind of test it out and also like figure out like what do I want to do with this format? I'm really serious about eventually making fictional writing my future, even if it's just a part-time thing. I want to do what I love more than anything in the world, and that is to create worlds. If I want to do that, I should really focus on developing an audience for it. This means you should expect more videos about writing on Something Central Writing, with comic book reviews too on Something Central Comics. If you want to find out if I'm talking out of my ass about this stuff, or if I have any ideas worth telling, check out my website, somethingcentral.com. I put all my videos there in blog form, and I update the site nearly every week. Okay, maybe not every week now. I put all my videos there in blog form, and I update the site nearly every week with a new chapter from one of my web series. I mean, sure, I miss a week or two, come on. I'm just me here, all right? Cut me some slack. You can read them totally free. Right now, The House of Asmodeus, A Trial by Fire can be read in its entirety. It's a story I wrote originally in high school that I've rewritten and modernized. It's about the demon lord of lust, so yeah, you knew what I was all about in high school, and his house dealing with the discovery of angel and demon hybrids. But can this discovery stop a war between heaven and hell? You can read the entire first book on my site. I'm also finishing the first arc of another fantasy story, Raydorn, the War in the Black. I originally made a homebrew D&D campaign with my friends, set in the magical world of one of my manuscripts. But as it turns out, it's really hard to run a D&D group, and I don't like DMing. So I took the plot of a mercenary band trying to survive a world war with all the characters my friends made and tell the story of how they basically fuck around and find out. I'm also doing my own superhero book. It's semi-episodic, and it has different arcs on how a group of superheroes just out of high school come into their own and deal with each other. It's like a mix of both kind of Justice League, but also Teen Titans, because I grew up with both those shows. It's a bit of a silly, violent, and fun story with characters figuring out exactly what they want to do with their powers, while a bunch of fucked up supervillains make their lives hell. So if you like this video, like and subscribe for more. Check out my website for my stories and the other videos I'm putting up. Thank you, and good night, or morning. I don't know where you live. I don't stalk you. Have a nice day. I don't know why I did the thumbs up.